I really appreciate you joining us. And so this is our, so to speak, headquarters. We just got an office in Detroit West, and we have an office now in Detroit East, and we are just looking and working on a third office in Detroit. So we'll start building teams, and we'll start, we'll have something in Grand Rapids, and we'll have something in Lansing, and we'll just have something in Bay City and Muskegon and Marquette, and we'll just, this is really a statewide campaign. We're not taking any geography for granted. We think we want to just go appeal to all Michiganders because we need a change. We need something different. A lot of things aren't working. Our education is one of my #1 priority. Thank you. I don't say that because there's a teacher sitting on the front row here.
Not many people do put that as a priority.
I want to be known as the education governor and someone that really made our education better. And tell you why. I don't say that just because it sounds good. Education was the ladder for my success. So when I was 14 years old and my family fell into dire poverty, 4 girls in the family, 2 boys, my mom and dad. My dad had to retire because of his age. They just made him forcibly retire. And the family had financial problems. And I worked as a janitor. And fortunately, the state paid for my bachelor's and master's because of my financial status. Now here, it doesn't happen. And we got to make education more affordable. So my focus is, look, that helped me get my degrees. And then I came to University of Akron. So in high school, I worked as a janitor. I worked many jobs in college. Then I came to University of Akron in 1979 to work on my PhD in chemistry. So I'm a scientist.
Work is noble work. Seriously,
Yeah.
it is.
So I'm a chemist. I'm a scientist. And so they paid me $300 a month to teach undergraduates laboratory thing. And so out of the $300, I'll take $75 and I'll send it home so my family can put food on the table. And then in summer, they won't pay us. No labs in the summer, so no teaching assistant. So then I couldn't afford to keep my apartment. And then I started sleeping in my car. I had a little car I had bought for $200. It didn't have insurance, but it ran. I couldn't afford an insurance on it. But I would sleep in the car, and when it got too hot in the car, I would go and sleep in the chemistry building. So one day, the dean and the professor came there to have a meeting, and I was still sleeping because I worked late last night. And so 2 years later, they gave me an award, an outstanding teaching assistant. And the dean said, Shri is very, very dedicated. He works very, very hard. Many a nights he's known to sleep in the department. So I got my PhD and I applied to 150 jobs and didn't get a single. That was 1982. I don't know if you remember, but the interest rates were 17%.
Yeah. 21%.
My first house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was me. My first car.
Your first car, right?
Under Reagan.
So couldn't get a job. And then Michigan is critical to me. So I was invited at Midland. They had a chemical, like a talk show, not talk show. What do you call it? Chemical regional meeting where I presented my thesis work there to them. And one person in the back kept asking me tough questions, but in the end, he came and offered me a job at the University of Michigan. He happened to be the chairman of the chemistry department here in Ann Arbor, and his name is Dr. Curtis, MD Curtis. And so I came to Michigan. I was excited, and the question really was, will my Impala that I had bought for $200, will it make it to Ann Arbor from Akron, Ohio? Back then, the life was very simple because everything that I owned fit nicely in the trunk of my car, and I still have some room left. So I came and drove. The car made it to Ann Arbor. I parked it in the central campus. I was in a hurry to go to the department. Then I came back to the car. This was September of 1982. And I got a ticket. And the ticket wiped out half of my net worth.
Oh.
I had to pay $35 for the ticket. So I stayed in Michigan till 84. And then in 84, I got a job in St. Louis, Missouri. So I went to St. Louis, Missouri, worked there as a chemist. And in 1990, I wanted to be on my own. So I bought a little business. It was a 3-person service business that did chemical analysis, chemical testing. What they did was like a woman who is working in her garden, and she's getting skin irritation working with the soil. And it so happens that the town has a chemical factory, and there are stacks, and there is fly ash flying all over. So the townspeople are a little afraid because they were the only employers in town to go complain. But they go there and complain, and this company won't listen. So they came to my lab, and the way I would do it is I'll analyze the soil and look for any kind of chemicals in the soil. And then I'll go and found the fly ash and analyze that. And guess what? The chemicals in the fly ash was exactly the same as the chemicals that I found in the soil, including some cancer-causing chemicals. So when I wrote my report, they went to them and they fought, and they were able to resolve that, and the company changed their methods and processes. So this is what I did. My company did help people, solve problems like that, fight with corporations. We did some innovation and help little companies innovate new drugs, new medicine that Pfizer won't do, because there's only 500 people somewhere or 5,000 people that need this medicine. It's a rare disease, but Pfizer is not blockbuster profit, so they won't do it. So I will help these little virtual small startup companies develop this new medicine. So that was become a part of my business, and it started growing. So I bought this 3-person company for $75,000. That's the loan I got from the bank. And I had $3,000 on my credit card. So I'm no Rick Snyder. I'm no Donald Trump, whose dad gave him $14 million to start his business. Small loan. So, the bank gave me the loan. I got this thing and started the company. Then the owner retired after I bought the company. Her secretary was 75 years old. She retired. So I only inherited one chemist and me. And then grew that business. And in 1996, I've grown the business to about 20 employees, about a couple of million in revenues from the $150,000 per year revenue when I bought it. So I grew that business. And then 1996, my children were 4 and 8 years old. And their mother died. So I had to take care of my children as a single father and run the business. And a few years later, I met a wonderful woman. I got remarried again. These boys, I'm so proud of them. These boys graduated from Ross Business School with a business degree, and now they're entrepreneurs creating jobs. So and they are one of my biggest consultants, because I'm trying to get some value for all the fees that I paid. And they're very good. They're very passionate. And they tell me that I should really do this, and they encourage me. And I felt that my wife and I must have raised these children well, because they were encouraging me to spend their inheritance on this campaign. Because the money that I'm putting into this campaign is a big chunk of. For Rick Snyder, it was pocket change to put his. But what money I'm putting into it so that I don't have to take money from the corporations, because I'm not going to take a single penny from the corporations. I'm not going to be beholden to them. Thank you. And I'm passionate enough in this that I want to, do this. And they encouraged me. And I said, do you realize this is your inheritance? And they had, we're fine, Do what you need to do. If this is what you're passionate about, do it. And so that's really what I'm doing. So I sold my business. So the business that I had bought, kept growing. And in 2008, the business had grown to about 450 employees, 65 million in revenues. So many little companies that I had bought using more loans from the bank, because I needed an infrastructure to serve these little companies that are developing medicine. These were all venture-funded virtual companies. And in 2008, with the recession, anybody remembers the recession?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So all of my employees, my customers, this little company started going belly up in the recession. And I had borrowed, what, $24 million. Before the recession, the business was valued at about $200 million. So it wasn't too bad. I borrowed $24 million and created a business that was worth $200 million. But in the recession, a lot of my customers started going belly up. And the bank got impatient, and I kept telling them that, and I had working 18 hours a day, trying to turn it around. And I started saying that to the bank, that give me time, I'll save all these jobs, and you'll get your money, and we'll keep the jobs. And the bank got impatient. They were getting like 10 cents on a dollar everywhere else in the recession. So they came in, took charge of everything that I had, sold it, got more money, a little more money than what I owed them. So they got paid themselves full. They kept the rest of the money that they collected as late fees and receivership fees. They said to me, as I was leaving last time from my business, they gave me a cardboard box. They said, Mr. Thanedar, if you want to take your personal stuff, feel free to take. So I'm putting in the box my children's pictures from my desk, and I put my Entrepreneur of the Year trophy that I had won. I was very proud of from Ernst & Young. 2 awards I had gotten before. So I put the award in my box, and I said, I'm going to win another one of these. I come home, and then we learned that the bank is going to foreclose on our home. So we put all our personal stuff, put it in a budget rental truck. My wife and I took turns driving. This was in September of 2010. We drove straight from there to Ann Arbor, Michigan. We got a little lab in West Ann Arbor and rented that space, bought a little, this was business that had gone out of business. So I bought that and started my business again. And in 6 years, I created 50 good paying jobs in Ann Arbor, moved into a bigger building right here across the Ann Arbor airport. And in 2016, I won that award, Entrepreneur of the Year. And at that time, it felt like, we achieved our American dream. My family is doing well. A lot of people are hurting. And this is across America, and especially in Michigan. Getting American dream, it's becoming harder. Our children are supposed to do better than us, And that's not happening, and there are no opportunities. And we are putting people, we're not giving them skills, and we're not training people, and education has become so expensive, and healthcare has become expensive. This is because this should not be. Education should not be a privilege. Healthcare should not be a privilege. And we see the rich people getting richer, and we see people that are struggling. 22% people under poverty line in Michigan. 40% of the African American children going to bed hungry. And that's no way to live. And I met women, Tammy, I met in Bay City. She worked for a manufacturing company, and her company decided to go all automation. And she lost her job. And he had 2 little girls, single mom, 2 little girls, and she's working at Taco Bell at $8.50 an hour. And that's no way to raise our family for a country that is so affluent. So something isn't quite right. And something isn't quite right when our governor says he wants to run the state like a business, and state is not a business, right? You're dealing with people's lives. And when you put emergency managers and you don't pay enough to the cities and counties, you take some of that revenue, put it into balancing the budget and cut short to the cities. And then you're giving money to the cities based on the zip code, not based on the needs. And then cities fail. Cities like Detroit fail, and cities like Flint fail. And then they put the emergency managers, and Michiganders said, we don't want emergency managers. Despite our opposition, they put emergency managers, and these emergency managers can only look at cost, not revenue. So when they look at the balance sheet, they try to save $150,000 in Flint. That's all, $150,000, because they needed to soften that water, put some chemicals so that they won't corrode and the lead won't leach into the water. It was that simple. If they try to save a little bit of money and poison literally thousands of people, including children,
And so what do you think you would do about that? Because that issue has not been resolved.
No, we got to change the lead lines from everywhere. We got to fix infrastructure. We got to find money to,
Right.
it's people's health. It's
Yes,
people's health.
Exactly.
and nobody, we sitting on.
Do you have a like line to like a pathway to
Yes.
get that money?
Yes, I do. We are going to look at, there was a big study done, and that said that we need to put up to $6 billion a year in our infrastructure. There's this lot, not only our roads are terrible, it's just a joke. The potholes that we have is just a joke. We got to fix those roads. We got to fix the bridges that are, there's just temporarily supported bridges. There is no internet in northern Michigan, high-speed internet. How can you study? How can you innovate? How can you, and how can you run? Good question. So first of all, we're giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to big corporations. Remember, even Amazon, we tried to give so much money and they still didn't come here because they said you don't have good education system. You don't have the skilled people in Michigan. So they gave them such a sweetheart deal and they didn't take it. Mm-hmm. Because that's not going to work anymore. All Snyder has done is give money away to big corporations, and I'm going to take some of that money out. We're going to do some bonds, municipal bonds. We're going to do some graduated tax structure. So the corporations aren't paying their fair share of taxes. Some of the rich aren't paying their fair share of taxes. So I don't want the lower middle class and the working poor to be able to have to pay any more taxes. They should not. And making them pay these auto fees is ridiculous. Trying to raise the registration fees. That's not the way to collect money. So we need to redo our tax structure. We need to get some money we can get from the federal government. Like for a new SULOC, we can get money for. Expanding 94, we can get money from federal government. So we got to go fight for that money and get that money. So I want to support recreational legalization of recreational marijuana. That will generate about $125 million. So money is there if we have the will, and money is there if we can do the leadership. Sorry. So we need to really focus on that. So there's multiple sources of revenues that we can generate, but we need to have the will to make a change. The same old isn't working, and we got to think big. We got to think and bring big ideas. We have to have a vision. How is Michigan going to be 5 years down the road? How is Michigan going to be 10 years down the road? And we got to start investing in our state. We got to start investing in our infrastructure. We got to start investing in our education. We got to create skill sets. We got to make college affordable. I would like to see the public universities tuition free, because that's the best investment we can do in our people. And it's doable. Some of these things are doable. I call myself a financially savvy Bernie Sanders. No offense to anybody.
No, I knocked on doors for that.
I ran small businesses. I have to make payroll every 2 weeks, so I understand so it's not empty promises. I understand how to generate the revenues and then how to use them frugally. Because when I grew up in poverty, I learned from my mom how to be frugal and how to be pragmatic and how to use common sense to get things done. And that's the kind of knowledge base I would bring to Lansing. But you have a question.
Can you address how the lottery affects education? Because our governor keeps saying, all this money, from the lottery is going into education. And I get a feeling it's actually going into the general fund and then
It is.
So it's not helping.
It's not helping. It's not helping. And that's what they do. They have money allocated. Even we have the school fund that they take the money out. So every time they run shy of money, they raid the education. The first time that they come, they raid. And so we need to really make banks specifically for education, specifically for infrastructure, put money into it, and that money is earmarked for that particular issue and nowhere. And we should not let them take that money away. So that's really what we need to do. But we need strong leadership. what's going to happen more than likely is that we're going to have a Republican Senate. With all the gerrymandering, there is no way we can win the Senate. There is a good chance we can win the House if we can win the governorship with at least 10% margin.
I think we have a pretty good shot at this. That's me wishing.
I would love to. I would love
We
to,
have a pretty good shot.
but I may not want to count on
Yes,
that. Okay.
yeah, I know, right. I know, but there's always that, yeah.
But
Yeah.
House, there's a good chance we can get to the House. Senate is
Yes,
going to
for
be
sure.
difficult. But if I have the House, I will have plenty of leverage. And I'm used to working with a little bit of leverage.
Right.
I don't need a lot of leverage because I've dealt with adversities all my life. So I know how to make things happen. And I know how to fight for things. So I will.
I don't want to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but what do you think about transportation? Because there is transportation to, I live in Wayne County.
Yes.
Just the edge
Yes.
of Wayne County. But the buses stop
Yes.
in Wayne. And Wayne or Westland? I'm losing, yes, they stop at Westland.
Mhm.
And then they pick up in Ipsy.
Mhm.
But so, like for the people that live in Belleville,
Yeah.
I mean, we're stuck with nothing. We have to either drive like to Westland to
Yeah,
get to the
I know.
bus stop, or we have to
And you know
drive
what?
to Ipsy to get to the bus stop.
You know why?
So
Because
where would that, like, do you have anything?
I think we gotta have big mass transit is very, very critical. And we need to work with Macomb and we need to work with Oakland. And we need to expand those bus lines. And we need to find a way where they won't be able to opt out of it.
Oakland doesn't want to let go of their money. They have more money than God.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, is you
Oakland
can't
doesn't
get to your
want
job if you
Yeah.
don't have a car, and
Yeah.
if you can't afford a
Yes.
car and insurance.
Yeah.
Then you need transportation, and this is why there's, that's why we have the
Yeah.
4.1 unemployment,
Sure.
because people can't get around and
Yeah.
get a job.
Sure.
Because, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Fight in the snow?
Last week I met a woman. She takes 3 different buses and then she walks 1.5 miles to work. Look how difficult we make it for people to get a job and work.
For $7.25 an hour.
Exactly.
If only government worked as hard as that woman.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to have good intentions, and we need to have good, strong leadership, and we need to have leadership that's not beholden to the corporations and the lobbyists and the billion-dollar families. Because look, the elites and the people there, they get the best deals. There's just so many loopholes, and and even when they get the city money and they're supposed to be hiring downtown, Detroiters, they don't. And when they don't, they are just built in a small fine. They built that into their calculation. So they just pay the fine. And that's what big corporations get away with. And our politicians have become so dependent on these big corporations because they need money to run for election. And so there is this bondage, there's this thing. And when they go to power, this is just a pay for play culture. And that's really hurting. That's really where we see the effect of the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the builders. What they're trying to do here is just unacceptable.
So our government is representative, but it's representative of corporate interests.
Yeah, because
Not, me.
because you and I and rest of us don't have a lobbyist in Lansing. Tell me if anybody does. I don't want to offend you. We don't have the lobbyist in there. And many of the new lawmakers who come in who don't study and don't, Cali wants to make them part-time. And I'd rather want them to work 80 hours a week, and figure out what the problems are and work hard and do the research and don't get your information from the lobbyist because the lobbyists have an agenda. Go do your own independent research and your own studying, understand the issues, go talk to your people in your constituency to understand. They know what needs to be done. So go talk to people. Don't talk to the lobbyist. We need to kind of stop this, the lawmakers get term limited, then they go become lobbyists and they start influencing. And we got to, give them a 5-year period where they can't even lobby. There's a lot that we need to do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But we got to stop that corruption. This is the corruption that we got to stop. Until we do that, we're not going to get, we are last in transparency. We are last in ethics among all states. We don't need to know where they can tell us where the governor is. The governor could be out of the country. When he goes to Japan, no one can know about it. No accountability. MEDC makes these backroom deals with big corporations. They don't tell. See, what they offer to Amazon, they are yet not telling us. They're not telling us. So what kind of deals are going on? And look at this. Look at this freedom of information. The governor, the lieutenant governor, the lawmakers, they're not subject to that. And I want to change that. And I think singularly, I can do that for my own position because we're paying them. That we are paying them to serve us, and we need to know what are they up to, and why. What is it that they want to hide? There should be nothing there. Yes.
There's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You were talking a lot about businesses and the importance of being held accountable by people. And I was just wondering how you, as a businessman, like Donald Trump, like Rick Snyder, are going to be, who's self-funding his own campaign, is going to be held accountable to the people rather than businesses.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a little saner than Donald Trump.
My cat.
And I think I have a little more heart and compassion than Rick Snyder. Basically, Trump came in with very narcissistic, everything. It's all about him. It's all about him. And so I should not be, just because I owned a business and I succeeded in business and I also failed in business and succeeded again, I shouldn't be just compared in the same way as Rick Snyder or Donald Trump. I'm a scientist to begin with. I've lived my life with transparency and ethics. And when you go, we have a book for every one of you, a complimentary copy of my memoirs. And if you read that, you can see how transparently I've lived my life and how open I am about everything that happened to me in my life. And that's how I will be as a governor. I'll be very transparent. I'll be very open about what I do. There are some good skills. When I grow small businesses, I have to hire good people because I can't alone take a 3-person company and make it into a 450 employee company. Nor can I alone solve all of Michigan's problems. So I got to have good people. And I know how to do that. I know how to craft a good vision for our state, and then I know how to communicate that vision to the lawmakers, to the people of Michigan, to my cabinet, and then make this all happen. And I stand behind it. Sometimes I also get a question about, I haven't been a mayor before, and I haven't been a lawmaker before. Do I have enough experience to? And if you look at who a governor is a leader. He or she has, their job is to have a vision. Their job is to have solutions. When I do my State of the State address, I plan out an agenda for our state, and the lawmakers have to go now and vote on it, and often a lawmaker only has one vote, her or his own vote, and most of them vote party line, right? So it's not, being in as a lawmaker doesn't give you that leadership skills. Doesn't give you that leadership skills, because when you're running a small business, you're making critical decisions, whereas as a lawmaker, you're only responsible about your own one vote. And 90+% now our politics is so polarized that people just vote party line. And they're not well informed. They go get their information from the lobbyist. So I think what is critical here is that we get somebody that is a leader, a strong leader, has a strong backbone, because we are going to have to negotiate and use little leverage that we have against the Republican, House or Senate. Make things happen, because this is not about grandstanding. This is not about just talking, and it's not about great passionate speeches. It's about solving problems. ultimately 4 years down the road, at the end of my first term, I want to look back and I want to grade myself, like we would grade in the school. And there are many areas, are our roads better? Did we invest in our infrastructure? Where is our education? Did we raise it up in the top 10%? Did we make it easier for people to acquire skills? Did we make college more affordable? Are we more transparent as a state now? So there'll be many questions that I'm be asking, and I would be grading myself. I'm a hard grader, and I would grade myself and see how I did. It's not about what a great speech I made about human rights, or I made civil rights, or women's rights, or workers' rights, right? Speeches don't change lives, We need to actually make things happen. That means we need to really work things out and actually pass bills and change people's lives. So that's what I want to do. I'm not a career politician. I don't need this job to make my resume look good. I've got a pretty good resume, So I'm going there to fix things and do things, and I'm very passionate about it. And I want to, so I sold my business. So when I came to Ann Arbor, we restarted our business. 2016, I got that award, and I decided I'm going to sell. So I sold the business, paid $1.5 million I took and gave it to all my employees. And I did it by, not by their titles. The presidents and CFOs usually get most of the money. I gave it based on the length of their service. So Katie, my administrative assistant, got $107,000 bonus. So I don't just talk progressive. I have lived a progressive life. I have provided the health insurance to employees, and I provided, sick leave, paid sick leave to employees. And I've run good businesses, Now, my opponents are going and finding some disgruntled employees and making. So I think I've arrived, because now I'm getting all kinds of attacks. Every other day I see in the newspaper, somebody's trying to find something, go find something. So that's really going to happen. And they told me it's going to be dirty. Politics is dirty. And that's why good people don't want to go into it, And those who are in there try to live a very sanitized life, or at least appear to, and that's what the media is always trying to go find something in their lives. And if you live a normal life, then the media can find little things and blow it up. So that's what I'm starting to see happening. But they tell me it's a good thing. Because
seriously.
Yeah, they're taking me seriously. I'm a threat now. And some poll put me 3% above. I'm leading among all candidates now.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the only poll that really matters is the one on August 7th and November 6th. So I want you to come.
Right.
It doesn't matter what these little polls tell us, and they're going to change from week to week. But I was 2% in the polls in November with an error margin of plus or minus 4. And we have risen up now. And so we're getting a lot of interest. I know there's a question. So we're getting a lot of support and interest. And, I want to fight. I'm hearing everywhere I go, I hear the struggle people are having. And really, we need to focus on that. We need to make Lansing work for people once again. So that's really what I'm focused. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you talked about finding stuff on people, but I want a strong Democrat in office. And I know that you have donated to John McCain, and you have come out in support of Marco Rubio. So how can I be sure that you're a strong Democrat when you have come out in support of these Republicans, and it has been said that you thought about running on the Republican side?
Well, there were 2 Lansing consultants. This is how a Lansing game works, by the way. So it's like trick or treat. That's how they work. So if you hire them and pay them money, then they'll say good things about you. So there's a couple Democratic consultants that I interviewed. And I ended up not hiding them, right? So now they go talk to, and then media just wants stories. So there is a media story that have talked about all these things. So Shri is not really progressive, all kinds of stuff. So this will just go on and on. And they will try to discredit me, because that's the only thing they can do, and this is going to happen. So I've given, in about last 10 years or so, I've given about $32,000 to political candidates. So sometimes political candidates call me, and ask for donation. Now 29,000 of that happened to be Democratic candidates, including Obama. I gave Obama's victory fund $15,000. And I got nothing, just a picture, but it was a nice picture. I got a picture with Obama and Clinton, and I realized how short I am every time I look at it. The two presidents standing there. But as an immigrant coming to this country, and I'm so thrilled with the opportunities I got, but I got a chance to put my hand up and two famous, the two people that I respect. But that cost me $15,000 and a 30-second conversation with Obama.
Worth every penny of it.
Yes.
So you gave $17,000 to the Republican side then?
No, the Democrats. 15,000. 50. 32. I gave 29,000 to Democrats, and I got I gave $2,300 to John McCain.
I like John McCain.
No,
he's a hero. He's Republican. He's a hero.
So now there are stories all over the thing. Oh, she's Republican. So basically what happens is I get invited to these fundraisers. I go there. The admission price is $2,300. So I gave it to them. I go and have a good conversation with John McCain about immigration. And I said, why aren't you doing legal immigration? Why aren't you making it easy? Because we need good people, We need good people. Make it easy because these are very 12. Look at me. I came in with a master's degree in chemistry, stayed here, and I have loyalty to this country of ours. I became a U.S. citizen in 1988, 30 years ago, created jobs, and sometimes I have, a person coming from outside appreciates what a great country we are, and so we shouldn't discount that. And so I went to talk about to that too. So, media is going to make all kind of things, and my opponents are going to make a big deal out of it. But really, I'm going to focus on issues, and I'm going to focus on doing the right thing. Yeah.
When I think of the future in the immigrant community,
yes,
the future needs aspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely,
that's what that's all about.
And I think, I go to downtown Detroit, and I see in the neighborhood and see young kids, and they need inspiration. They need a helping hand. And they need encouragement. And it's not just getting a job. I think we need them to have inspiration and encouragement to start their own businesses. We need to bring entrepreneurship, and we need to bring the startup culture here. And that's really what I did when I had nothing. I started a little business, and it grew a little business. We need to really create opportunities for young people so they don't have to leave Michigan, go someplace else to achieve their American dream. They should be able to do it right here in Michigan. And that's really what I'm going to focus on. The other thing that keeps talking about is that you're an immigrant and you speak with an accent. I think people tell me I speak with an accent. I don't know if anybody agrees. So it's not. So, I said, so be it. But, we really need to look at the leadership, and we need to really look at the passion and really look at a person's intentions in doing what we will do. You have a question?
I had more of a comment than a question. It was just kind of to add on to the lady's question in the back. The fact that you did donate to a Republican, I think that makes you a stronger candidate, because it shows what I think has been a problem in our country lately is people putting party over country. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that you're willing to reach across the aisle and talk to people of all parties, mm-hmm. I think is a strength rather than weakness. So I want you to celebrate that and not shrink into it and say, oh no, that didn't, make that make that an asset.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. Thank you. And we got to. We are a purple state, and we need to work across the aisle to make things happen. We got to make things happen, and so let's work together. Let's work together, and but we have become so polarized. 15, 20, 30 years ago, people used to cross the aisle and vote for a good bill.
Right.
There'll be so much crossover voting. It's not happening anymore. It's all party line, and it's all demonizing the other side, and that's really what happens all the time. And we need to work on this. And I feel that as a general election candidate, with my financial background and my being frugal and my financial savvy, a lot of the independents will like my background. And I'm the only guy among the person running for governor that has created jobs. Rest of them are all worried about their own job. But I'm the only one who has signed a paycheck, right? And that is a valuable experience that, I've gone through adversities, and I've dealt with things, and I've lost everything I built, and I didn't give up. I lost a family member, my first wife, to mental illness, and I dealt with that. I dealt with raising my children. And mental illness is such a difficult situation in the state, starting with Engler. Republicans have cut budget, closed hospitals. And if you look in the prison system, 60, 70% of the people have underlying mental illness. We're locking up people that are mentally ill, severely mentally ill. If you go look in Metro Detroit, 18,000 homeless people. Many of them have severe mental illness. And we have not been compassionate enough to deal with something like that. And then it manifests itself in all of the other different areas. And if we don't really get to the heart of it, and these are some of the critical big problems we need to solve. And I'm not going to worry about my re-election chances and what the polls are saying. I'm going to do the right thing, And if people appreciate, they'll elect me again for my second term. But because I'm not a career politician. I'm just going to go there and do the right thing. Just want to go there and fix things. Because, I feel an obligation. Our country has given me so much, and Michigan has given me so much. When I first came to Michigan, that was my first job, and that's when I dreamt about my American dream, right here in Ann Arbor. And when I lost everything, I came back to Ann Arbor, recreated what I'd lost. And so I feel tremendous obligation and gratitude towards Michigan, and I want to give back.
Can you comment on gun control, please?
Well, I am for responsible gun control. I support Second Amendment. But we don't need guns in education institutions.
No.
Thank you. And the last thing I would ask a teacher to do is carry a gun.
If people are carrying guns in my child's school, my child is not going to that school anymore.
Exactly. Teachers are there to teach, and it's not a novel concept. Right. Teachers are supposed to teach, and we need to invest enough money in it to make our schools safer. That means if we need to put technology, use technology. If we need to use more security, use security, key card access, whatever it takes. But make our schools secure, but it's not the teacher's job to be defending and protecting and carrying guns. We need to. I want to ban assault weapons.
Yeah.
Because, anything that's not needed to protect our Second Amendment right. And so my focus would be responsible gun ownership.
You need to give teachers back their autonomy, too.
Mm-hmm.
We need to give that. We need to pay them well.
Trust them
We need to.
with our children.
There's so much I want to do for the teachers. So one is we need to hire enough teachers so that we don't have a class full of 37
Right.
kids in a class. The teacher can barely stand in the class. That's just not a good way to learn. We need to hire more people. We need to encourage more people to go into teaching. That means we may want to forgive some of their college debt if they choose to go into teaching. Yeah.
Do you think that this whole thing about teachers carrying guns is just deflecting from the real topic?
Yes.
Because you can't even, this time of year, there's not even any copy paper
Yeah.
for teachers.
Right.
So how do you expect for teachers to carry guns when there's no money in schools to begin with? So this feels more like a
Yeah.
deflection
Yeah.
from
I was.
the real issue at hand with gun control than.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the NRA.
That-
Let's sell more guns.
I know.
Yeah.
I was at Office Max the other day, and I met two teachers, Judy and Rachel. They teach in the Farmington School District. And they had tears in their eyes. They were telling me about how they get humiliated and how they get evaluated, and how the administrators come in with a calculator or punch in things to.
And they only come in once or twice a year.
Yeah.
I expect them.
And they didn't get paid enough. At some point, I want a picture. We never had so many people in the office. I am so thankful to you guys. So if any of my staff would come here and take a picture from the back, please.
My daughter is a teacher, and she just told me that there is a special GoFundMe Kickstarter type thing
Yeah.
just for teachers,
Yeah.
so that she can beg on a national
Donors
level to
choose.
get books.
Yeah.
Runners choose. is
Yeah.
what it's
Yes,
called.
yes, that's what she.
Yeah.
You have
So-
to beg
So
for books.
yeah. So we need to respect our teachers. They had tears in their eyes, and they're explaining me they haven't had a pay raise for like last 5 years.
Right.
And these two ladies were putting money out of their own pocket to buy supplies for their classroom. I mean, look at the dedication. Look. Yeah.
It's the only profession where people steal stuff from home to take it.
I know. And that's no way to run an education system. We got to fix. That's my number one priority. Education is my number one priority. I know the roads are bad. We got to fix those roads and invest in our infrastructure. But education, healthcare is a big, huge problem. Seniors had to choose between buying prescription medicine or putting food on the table. We really have to deal with healthcare. We need to cover more people. I'm for single payer healthcare. Not going to be easy, but we got to work on that, and we got to find a way to cover more people. There's just a ton of things that needs to be done. Last 7 years, the one party who controlled all of Lansing haven't invested enough, and I want to do that. Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. You talk a lot about being like the most progressive candidate.
Yeah.
But I've read recently that you are pro-life, and I was just wondering how you could claim to be the most progressive candidate if you don't believe in the woman's right to choose.
Yeah. Oh, I am fully supportive of women's rights. I am pro-choice. Now, that's what I was talking about when the consultants who didn't get paid, who didn't get hired by me, I started these rumors. And some newspaper reporters love to do this kind of rumor thing, and there are articles about it. And this happened to me 2 days after I raised in the poll, and I had a 3% lead over everybody else. These articles started coming out. And so there is no truth to that. These are all just rumors people are trying to discredit, because this is the only way they can defeat what I'm trying to do. Yes?
If I may, even if you were pro-life,
Yeah.
just because you personally are doesn't mean that you necessarily want to
But-
restrict someone else's choice.
I know, but I'm not even personally pro-life.
I know. I'm just saying that even
Right,
if you were,
Yeah.
it's like,
But
that's what I would want.
yeah.
I don't know what she
Yeah. But you know what? I am thick-skinned enough. I'm thick-skinned enough that I don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. and do tweeting. So I told my wife and told my staff, I have a thick skin, but fasten your seat belts. We're becoming a threat to some people, and we will start seeing these rumors, and we'll see more of this. This is just the beginning of that. Yes.
Okay. Hi.
I don't know, I guess it just kind of scares me when I hear politicians say, like, don't trust journalism and don't trust media. Is that what you...
No, not all media is dishonest. Not all media is wrong, but some do. Sometimes, they're just trying to sell their, get better ratings or sell their newspaper, whatever. And sometimes sensational stuff sells, and people like to do that. But I'm not saying the entire profession is bad, just a few people. Yeah. Who should I? Oh, maybe.
It's great that you talk about paying teachers more and doing the roads and so forth. Where's the money going to come from to do this?
Good question. I think this is enough. I answered it once, but I'll answer it again.
They're all great ideas.
Yeah.
What are the practical details of how to actually do that?
Good question. And I'll repeat this because it's worth repeating. A lot of things, like getting a new SULAC, things like expanding Highway 94. We can get some federal funds for that. So there is things we can do where we can get federal funds for. We need to redo our tax structure. Our corporations are not paying their fair share. Their profits are in billions. But if you really look at the amount of taxes corporations really pay, it's amazingly low amount. And we need to have them pay their fair share of taxes.
Right.
We don't need to give the kind of incentives that Google and Amazon and big companies like that don't need money or incentives. They have to be here, and they have to have distribution. Amazon needs to have a distribution center here in Romulus because that's part of their business. So they don't need to get incentives from us. So I'm going to cut down on big corporate incentive. I'm going to invest that into small businesses. I'm going to invest that into education. I'm going to, once we legalize recreational marijuana, that will generate $125 million. The tax will generate about $1.8 billion. Several $100 million we can save from the corporate welfare that Snyder has championed. There is a multiple ways. We'll do municipal bonds because investing $1 today will give us $5 reward 5 years down the road. So we'll do some municipal bonds. I don't think we can tax middle class and lower middle class anymore. They've been taxed enough, and we haven't fixed our roads, and we have raised registration fees, and we have raised all kinds of things. So we need to really make this a balanced, and that means we need to. So the money is there. You need to have the will, and you need to have the backbone, and you need to have the strong leadership to make it happen. But the money is there, and this can be done. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be easy working and getting this done through the Republican Senate. But if anybody can do it, I can, because I've dealt with situations like that.
What changes would you want to make in the corporate tax structure? I know Michigan used to have a single business tax that we got rid of.
True.
And didn't replace it with anything. What would you like to replace it with?
Well, it didn't really create any more jobs. Since prior to recession, if you look at it, we're still 300,000 jobs short from the time prior to recession. Mm-hmm. So with all this talk about Snyder, taking victory laps about creating jobs, we're still 300,000 jobs in short from the prior to recession. So this whole concept about giving money to big corporations, asking them to come open up a shop here, our politicians get a photo op, then a few years later, these factories get closed and they move jobs out and nobody hears about them. So the net gain of all these corporate incentives is essentially zero. We haven't created much of a jobs.
Right.
So we need to really invest in small businesses. We need to invest in entrepreneurship. We need to invest in startup culture. And that's where the jobs are. And the small businesses are the people that are loyal to our state, and they'll stay here and they'll grow, not the big corporations.
Right. So again, what do you want to replace that with? How do you want to rearrange the corporate tax?
Well, we need to have a graduated tax.
On what?
In terms of
on revenues, income.
On income.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to. The corporations need to pay fair share, and this fear that if we have to give them all these goodies so that they can stay here and create jobs hasn't worked all that well. We are still shy of jobs. And if you look at the rest of the country, and many of the jobs happen in the auto industry, and that's only because of the Obama's subsidiaries that Obama gave them. It's not even what Snyder has done. So we really have to change this thinking. I call that a Band-Aid approach. Give a little bit of money, get a big corporation come in, create some jobs, and then a few years later, those go away. So we really, really need to solve these problems in a fundamental way, not just a Band-Aid. Yeah.
Minimum wage.
Yeah, minimum wage needs to be raised to $15 an hour. I want to tie that to inflation. Yeah.
Me? Okay. What I'm hearing from you is very great to listen to, because I come from always hearing that people that have compassion and start out into politics and work their way up, they end up being always owing somebody. And like you said, you don't want any ties. And that is so refreshing. That is the best thing to hear, because you have the compassion and you have, all the things that Michigan is needing. And usually everybody talks that way, but when it comes to once they're in that position, it doesn't happen. So knowing that that's, your whole...
yeah. Because, I don't need their money.
Right.
And I'm not really worried about re-election.
Right.
If I did good, people will elect me.
Correct. So,
and I don't need their money to get re-elected.
Right.
So I'm not going to be beholden to them. I'm going to do the right thing.
Yeah, I'm wondering, as a person that is not involved in politics, mainly because in a work area, when I worked for Ford Motor Company in the union, I got terribly burnt being in political. So once you are elected, how do we continue to support you rather than just waiting to see what you are going to do? How do we still, keep involved?
I think we need to continue to have a dialogue. We need to, as a governor, I need to come and have town hall meetings. And I need to listen to people, because I am not going there with an arrogance of, I know everything. I'm going to work with people, and I'm going to be open. And when I make and think about and talk about important decisions, like if we're talking about education, then I will have parents at the table. I want to have all stakeholders at the table. I want to have the teachers at the table. When we're talking about distributing money to counties and cities, we want people from the city to be there. And then when we are going to decide what to do with that money, I want the local government to be able to say what their priorities are, because Lansing cannot set priorities on what needs to be done in Macomb County and in Ann Arbor. Yes.
What is your relationship with Mayor Duggan?
I have no relationship.
You have no relationship with
I
him at
would,
all?
I certainly, I
You don't
have.
know what's going on with the 8 Mile project or anything?
No, I intend to meet with him,
All right.
and I intend to talk with him. I have sent out feelers to set up a meeting. Obviously, I'm not going there to ask for his endorsement, because he's already endorsed somebody else.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, but I will go there, and basically, I'm going to say to the mayor is that, Mayor, what can I do for Detroit? And because I see a lot of issues in Detroit.
But there are, because
There are
it's the whole
ton
school
of-
issue, it's the whole healthcare issue.
Tell me about it. Tell me. I mean, I go travel. I spend a lot of time in Detroit, and I am really, why do people have to live like we are a third world country?
Mm-hmm.
I see the poverty. I see there is no hope for our young people.
Right. Downtown has really
Yeah,
great change.
and the people that have come from outside and capitalized and made money, the big corporations and the billion-dollar families have really benefited. But they're supposed to hire Detroiters. They haven't. You just walk a couple blocks, and I've done that many times. Nothing has changed in the neighborhood. Their auto rates
I
are.
was just walking down 9 Mile Road.
Yeah.
Just last week, it was fine. I
Yeah.
was out there at 11:30
Sure.
at night.
Yeah.
Everybody was just cruising
Yeah.
along. But you go to 8 Mile Road.
Yeah.
And it's like a world of difference.
There is just a ton of things, and it all starts with opportunities.
Mhm.
You know, the schools. The schools need to be community centers.
Right.
You know, because I've seen poor kids. They are not proud to go to school because they don't have clean clothes. And one school put washer dryers in the basement of the school, and so kids can bring their dirty clothes and wash them, and they can wear next day. We need to think differently, And then I went to in Bloomfield Hills, and I was for a debate, and I saw the schools look like 5-star hotels.
Yeah.
That's really where it needs to start with the young children. I've thought over the years millions of times, how can you take that young child that is innocent, and then as he grows,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah.
How do you stop that?
Yeah, and we're talking about 3rd grade reading and 4th grade math, and we need to train the little kids early, when they're 1 year old. And my grandson Kai, he's 14 months old, and I see how they learn at that early age. The kids have so much capacity to learn, and when you have a single parent who are struggling to just put food on the table, you're not going to give that kid an opportunity to learn. Or worse than that, 1 in 4 parents are in the prison, and often for some minor possession charge or not an inability to pay a debt. And we need to find an alternate way to deal with such nonviolent offenses. There may be another way that they can pay their dues.
Yeah,
And
fix the
maybe
roads.
and we got to give them some skills so they don't end up back again. Same way with opioid crisis. Look at that.
That's just not Detroit, though.
I know,
It's
all over.
everywhere.
And Bill Schuette has treated it like a law enforcement issue.
Right.
And it is not a law enforcement issue. People are hurting. They need counseling. They need support. There are pill mills. There are doctors pushing this medicine. My neighbor's daughter, she had her wisdom teeth removed, and she got 20 pills of oxycodone. And I'm no medical doctor, but if she was my daughter, I'd give her 2 ibuprofen. But
There is a time for them.
and the
There
pharmacy,
is a
I know, but the pharmacy, but you don't need 40 pills for a wisdom teeth. And the pharmaceutical companies are pushing this. We got, the pill mills and the doctors doing that. And there's just a lot of things like that happens. And always you see who is benefiting is the big corporations. When you see, it happens in Ann Arbor, we have dioxin in our soil. Who left that? The big corporations left that, and nobody hold them accountable. Nobody held them accountable. We got phosphates running into the lake and creating toxic algae, right? We have that pipeline, Enbridge Line 5, 60-plus-year-old pipeline that the coatings have gone. As a scientist, I could tell with the currents underneath. That's a ticking time bomb. We can't afford to have that in there. It's doing nothing good to us. Nestle stealing our water.
Yes.
We got to stop. They just approved them taking another 400 gallons per minute, I believe, of water.
Everywhere.
So it's an increase from 250 to 400.
Yeah, they pay what, $200 to take as much water as they want. I thought you had a question.
I did. So I've seen you mention line 5. What about line 6B? It's already ruptured.
Yeah, no.
And it contaminated a massive area, and it's still contaminated.
I know.
So what do you want to do about that?
And you know what happens is we got to hold them accountable.
Yeah,
And
it's
until
still
we
Enbridge.
we got to hold them accountable. I was at Mackinac Policy Conference last year, and I just peeked in there, and there was a little party going on, lots of fancy alcohol and good hors d'oeuvres, and I saw a lot of lawmakers in there, and I just said, whose party is that? I'm a little nosy sometimes. I said, whose party? And you know whose party it was? It was paid by Enbridge. Yeah.
So I would consider myself a progressive voter, but you aren't the only progressive candidate for the Democratic primary. How does your campaign differ from Abdul El-Sayed's campaign?
Well, I did not grow up in privilege. I've lived a progressive life. I've seen the suffering of poverty. I've seen the stigma of poverty, and I've dealt with it. And, my positions are as progressive as anybody's. But I come with a lifelong experience. It's not a speech that I memorized. It's a life that I've lived. I have created jobs. I have treated fairly to my employees, and I bring all of that years of experience, life experiences to this job. And I have proven leadership. I have been a leader for the last 26 years. So there's one thing is what somebody's policies are, and then can that person deliver? Does he or she has the leadership and the backbone and experience to make that happen? It's more than inspiring speeches, because that's something that your consultant can write you a very inspiring progressive speech. But can you lead? What is your life experiences? What have you accomplished? That's what matters. And I bring in with such a rich experience, life experiences, executive experiences, dealing with things, dealing with adversities, So I think one has to look at that, because a governor is a leader. A governor is someone that has a vision that takes the state to the next level. And that's why we just don't want someone just to make great speech. We need someone that to make things happen. I'm a problem solver. I'm a doer. I make things happen. And that excites me, and adversities don't, I go fight. I'm a fighter. I'm tough. I'm the toughest 5'6" Yeah.
Well, that brings me to the question that I have, which is when states start to create a more progressive environment, California is a good example, the federal government gets upset with them and comes down hard on them. Are you ready and able and willing to fight back against the pressure to conform?
Absolutely, absolutely. What gets me going is when things get tough. and read my book. It's a free copy. I know some of you feel guilty taking free copies, but I have a solution. If you go to my website, there's a big red button that says donate. Feel free to donate a couple bucks if you need to, but take my book and see how I have dealt with adversities. And, being a governor is not a sexy job. It's tough. It's a tough job. You're under a microscope. You need to have the temperament and the strength in your mind to deal with this. That's really what you need. And there's going to be a fight, and there's going to be negotiations, and there's going to be working on things. And I think about this, every waking hour. When I sold my business, now I'm campaigning. Every waking hour, I think about this. When as a governor, every waking hour, I'll be focusing on this. I'm not much into photo ops. I'll be working hard. I think there's a question there. Did you have a question back there behind you?
Well, I just had an observation, and I've been struggling with how to present it in a way that doesn't come across offensive. But I'm listening to you, and I want you to know I'm not judging. I'm just hearing you say things that we all heard a year ago for the presidential campaign. Things like, I'm a business owner, and I'm a fighter, and I'm going to be working all the time. And we've all sat, I assume everyone in this room, if not before he was elected, minutes afterwards realized that was all a bunch of bunk. And so I'm wondering how are you presenting yourself to people who are going to be skeptical to that sort of rhetoric, because obviously there was a big portion of the country that fell for that.
Yeah.
That did not see through his, what he was saying.
True.
And that
true.
makes me really nervous. I'm wondering, are people going to listen to what you say and immediately dismiss it because they've heard that before and then been lied to over and over and over?
Exactly. I mean, how many, he has what, 100 lies every hour, and he changes his opinion, every 8 hours?
Well, whoever's in the room.
Exactly. So unfortunately, and I hope people don't judge me just because I happen to own small businesses.
Right.
They don't equate me with Donald Trump.
Right.
Like I said, I'm a little more saner than he is. A little less narcissistic than he is.
Well, I'm thinking about the voter that I think people in this room are open to that.
Yeah.
But there's going to be other people you're going to have to win over.
True,
I don't think you'll win if only the people in this room vote
I
for you.
understand.
We need to win over some of those people that fell for his game.
Yes, I know. But he lied. What he said, if it was true, he would have been a great leader.
Right.
But unfortunately, he lied. It's all about him. The way he reacts and acts, and
right.
He hasn't grown. His brain hasn't grown since 5th grade. And that's what happens when you grow up in privilege. Mm-hmm. And no sensibility. And he discriminated against people of color back when he owned those apartments. And he just is not a honest person.
See, people are willing to, there's so many people that are willing to overlook that.
You know why?
How do we convince those people? I mean, forget convincing them that he's crazy. How do we convince them that, there is hope out there?
But look at the reason. People are smart. People are very smart. And look what happened in 2016. What has happened is people are really turned off and tired of the career politicians, especially young generation. The millennials are very tired of this. We have this very polished career politicians that they make speeches and they act. It's all scripted. We're tired of the scripted politician. We can't trust them. And people got so fed up with that they chose a person that was obviously very faulty and had problems. We have now realized he even had bigger problems. But that's how the frustration is, and the need and the appetite and the hunger for someone that is common sense and pragmatic is there. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. The people got cheated out when Donald Trump won, and people got cheated out when Rick Snyder won, because he came in with no compassion and no backbone. He gave in to the right wing in terms of passage of right to work and attacks on women's rights, and everything that he did, he really did not stood up to. He expanded recently Citizens United, so we have a Citizens United on steroids now.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no reason for him to sign that bill. So he really gave in because under civility, he talks a lot about civility. But civility is not just to give in. That's not what we expect from a leader, and that's not. So unfortunately, the two outsiders that the Republicans gave to our nation and our state turned out to be bad outsiders. And I hope they don't judge a good outsider with those yardsticks, because maybe third time is the charm. Yes.
So speaking of winning over voters, with such a progressive campaign, how do you intend on winning over more moderate and right-wing voters in a red voting state?
Well, you know what? I'm not going to give up on anybody. And I'm going to look at the choices we have. We have two career politicians. Currently, I'm calling this a Final Four for August Madness. You got Shruti and Kali on that side. And we have Shri Thanedar and Gretchen Whitmer on the Democratic side. So it's a final four is what it's looking like, you know. So looks like all three of them are career politicians. Shuri's been all for himself, another politician, very, very opportunistic, and he's just been for himself. And I think he's just been on a payroll, government payroll, and just grandstanding, hasn't accomplished anything, all talk. You know, and unfortunately, the establishment has picked a candidate on the Democratic side who is more of a corporate Democrat. And I don't know if corporate Democrat is any better than a corporate Republican. I don't know what you guys think. But because on one side you get a certain billion-dollar families get benefited by them, and then the other side helps the DeVos's and whoever else, and the Democratic Party helps their own billionaires. But you know, give us a break. You know, we need to get out of all this, and we need somebody that isn't beholden. So we don't have very many choices, and we could have a recession in the next 4 years. And imagine the nightmare if one of these career politicians who have never created a job, have no financial experience, gets into that spot. And our state hurts the most when economic downturn, you know. We hurt a lot, and we need someone with that savvy. I think you have your hand up very long.
Oh yeah. Well, you just talked about MP talk, but then I don't know. I overheard a couple times in response to a couple problems. I think the opioid and then the Line 6 explosion. Yeah. Or the Line 6 explosion. You just talked about like holding people accountable, but I don't really know what that means. Like, how is like acknowledging blame like gonna help the problem?
No, not acknowledging blame. So when a corporation pollutes, we got to make them pay for it. When there are corporations that have big buildings, like, you know, huge, big Walmart-like buildings, little thing that corporations do. I'll tell you a little thing that bothers me. So Walmart has these big, huge facilities, right? And they have to pay property tax on their real estate. We all pay property tax on our homes. So they have to pay property tax on their real estate. So you know what they do? They appraise those properties as if they were empty. So if they appraise it as if they're empty, the valuation is almost half of it. So they get 50% break on their property taxes. This is kind of a sweetheart loophole they worked out with the politicians. And so when you say hold them accountable, is we got to watch out for these things. We got to watch out when a corporation leave chemicals. If Enbridge is running this oil through the pipeline, we got to give them a daily fine or have them put some money away. So if it ever busts, we'll have sufficient money from them. So that's what I mean by holding accountable, not just blaming, but we need to have the backbone to and not be beholden, which we see a lot of our politicians are. We need to have it beholden so that so we can really hold them accountable. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So back to schools real quick. I know in places like Detroit and Flint, a lot of the problem is that they're basically charter schools. And I noticed you only address for-profit charters, but even non-profit charters are going to take the average daily attendance money from the public schools. So I was just wondering how you...
Well, basically, I want to set high standards. For our education, I want to set very high standards. And because once we set high standards for our public schools, we need to set the same high standards for our charter schools. And then we need to hold them accountable. But when we do that, we also need to make a commitment to put enough money in our schools. You know, they need to have the supplies. We need to take care of the buildings, because many of the buildings are in bad shape. We need to make sure they have enough supplies. We need to make sure that they're safe so that kids can go to school and and parents don't have to worry about their children. And teachers can go there and teach and not, because one of the things that I've heard from a lot of teachers is the bullying that happens. and there is really not enough support staff. There is not enough counselors in school to help the kids. There is not enough counselors. We are one of the states that has the largest ratio of student to counselors. We have like 700. We have one career counselor for every 750 students, and that's way off from the national average. We need to be able to give good career counseling to young people, and we need to bring career education and vocational skills in middle schools and high schools. We need to have mentorship. There's just a ton of things we need to do. Yeah.
So what does holding schools accountable look like to you? Because teachers hear that all the time, and to teachers that means holding teachers accountable, which is also known as blaming teachers for the problems of schools. It also means that neighborhood schools are constantly getting closed. Mm-hmm. So what does holding schools accountable look like to you?
Well, one of the things I want to do is cut down on the excessive testing that goes on. Yeah. We have so many testing that goes on, and all of our teachers are now focused so much on just the test scores, because the test scores are used to evaluate the teachers. Test scores are used to evaluate the schools, which schools are going to close because of test scores. And I want just one type of testing done 3 times a year. Because the teachers, what they tell me is that they're so focused, because they're so worried about their own raises and their own jobs, that they are just focused on preparing kids for the test scores. And they need to focus on real teaching. Those test scores should be only used for looking at progress, not evaluating a teacher's performance, not evaluating whether to keep a school or not keep a school. We need to put more money into it, and we need to have high expectations. We need to have high expectations, and we need to set high standards, because our kids have to compete globally, and they need to be able to when they come out of high school, we want to make sure they're prepared for college career, or they have enough vocational skills that they can go out and get a good paying job. So our schools, our colleges need to provide that to the students, and we need to have our curriculum adjusted such that children are coming out with skill sets that are good and marketable in the economy, so they can live good life. You had
in talking about making accountable, one of the things I used to do the student count for Ann Arbor Public Schools. Once Proposal A came in, and we had to start counting, FGE and full-time students, blah blah blah, and there are a whole lot of loopholes in that law. Having a count day, in 10 days forward, blah blah blah. What would happen, and I saw it happening, and I reported it. Nobody did anything. Was charter schools would pull their kids out just before count day, and they would enroll them so that they were present on count day, and the funding would pour into those charter schools, and then they would let them come back to Ann Arbor Public Schools.
Sure.
And that kind of thing, it was in the millions of dollars.
I know. And that's where the
that's one of the things we need to do with lawmakers, to start. Yeah.
And that's where the profit motivation comes into our public school dollars, and that's what happened. I'll take 2 more questions, and then we will end this, and then we'll talk informally. Yes.
So one of the problems that seems to have been facing Michigan for a while now is the brain drain. Right?
Yes.
So I think, my numbers might be wrong, but I think between 2000 and 2010, Michigan was the only state that actually lost population. I think Michigan lost like 0.6% of its population. Every other state in the United States grew. My presumption, as somebody who has seen many friends move to other major cities, is that a lot of it has to do with the lack of a major urban center. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how to address, the brain drain, which, we have great universities, but we're not keeping the people that we're training.
So one of the things I didn't get to talk about is, making college affordable. And helping people, anybody that is 120,000 or less family income, I want to make community college and public colleges free of cost for them. And we want to kind of continue doing that. Eventually, my goal is to have tuition-free college. So we need to make that available. Secondly, we need to help people, with their college debt. Kids are coming out with so much college debt. And if they stay in Michigan, then I would let them the debt be forgiven over time. And if they stay in Michigan, start a business, create jobs in Michigan, then that debt will get forgiven even faster. So I have many plans there. I want to help them get into teaching profession. If they become a teacher, also their debt gets forgiven. But eventually, our kids should not have to come out of college with this huge debt. That's really stays with their lifelong time. Education should not be that expensive, and we got to fix that. I'll take one more question and then we'll break. I know it's kind of hot. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, because we were talking about accountability. So on 5, you're saying you want this money, so that you can hold them accountable if something happens. Why not just shut it down before something does happen?
Shut what down?
Pipeline.
Yeah, we should.
Well, you were saying you wanted to hold them accountable.
No, we need to
do that. Why not shut it down?
We should have shut it down 5 years ago.
Yes.
Bill Schuette had every right to do that. Now, what happens there is that we have an easement. State of Michigan has an easement agreement with Enbridge, and Enbridge has violated that agreement, number of times. And Bill Schuette has every right to sue them. But this needs to be broken using a legal challenge. And they need to really challenge them legally.
Okay, so what could you do yourself if you were governor? What could you do to make this happen?
First of all, I wouldn't make the deal that Snyder made recently with Enbridge. We absolutely would not.
Okay.
And I would work with the Attorney General, and the Attorney General doesn't work for me. But I will work with them because I will, with my mandate and what I have, the support from people, I would use my office to make sure the Attorney General takes action. And there is something that governor can do about an easement. This is an agreement with our state. And so it's not just holding them accountable. I mean, we need to shut that down.
Yes.
We need to shut that down. We need to stop Nestle from taking our water. Yeah. I don't want Michigan water to go outside of Michigan. So there's lots of things we need to do, and the governor can make a difference and run that. So thank you all for coming. Can I get one picture can you take a picture from all of us here? Yeah.